Hello everybody and welcome to my podcast, Better a Broken Arm Than a Bruised Spirit. This podcast is designed for playwork practitioners to truly understand the history of adventure playgrounds. If we understand the history of a thing, we understand that thing more fully. We can also recognize that we are a part of history. What we do now shapes the history books of the future. It's important for practitioners of playwork to keep this in mind when out in their communities and recognize the impact that they are making on the future history books. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. The land on which I am practicing playwork belongs to the Boonwurrung people, and that land was never ceded and was taken without permission. The Boonwurrung people have traditions and practices that involve bububs, the Boonwurrung word for children, that have been occurring for countless generations. I pay my respect to the elders past, present and emerging. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Playwork today stems directly from the adventure playgrounds established by Lady Allen of Hurtswood in the mid-20th century. Let's look at the story of how this all came about. Lady Allen had what could be described as an idyllic childhood in the English countryside. Her parents were founding members of the camping club, and the family camped for 6 weeks every summer and spent the rest of the year at home, but still mostly outdoors, exploring their countryside home. She fell in love with and married Clifford Allen, a socialist and pacifist thinker, who sadly died just before the Second World War while trying to broker peace and argue against anti-Semitic policies in Germany. Together they had one daughter, Polly. In her grief, Lady Allen threw herself into her own pacifist war effort of establishing high-quality nurseries. She became an advocate for disadvantaged and displaced children and was highly respected for her work. While engaging in her work advocating for children's rights during an unimaginably horrible war, she was invited to visit Copenhagen in 1945 to view a new type of playground. Lady Allen observed what she referred to as a waste playground, a playground that the children designed themselves. This space was designed by C.T.H. Sorensen. Sorensen was himself an architect who found that his specifically designed playgrounds were so often ignored by children who preferred open spaces with loose materials. This became all the more prevalent during and after the war, as children flocked to the debris of bomb sites to construct their own play spaces from the rubble. Sorensen saw that the playground needed to come from the imagination of the child, not the imagination of the architect. He said of his creation, "Of all the things I have helped to realize, the junk playground is the ugliest. Yet for me, it is the best and most beautiful of all of my works." It would be an understatement to say that Lady Allen was moved by this playground. She saw the power these playgrounds brought to children. She brought the idea home with her and introduced it to the blitzed neighbourhoods of England. To Lady Allen, this was bringing her adventurous rural childhood to the lives of urban children. Lady Allen spent the remainder of her life establishing adventure playgrounds and advocating for their importance, while also devising the role of adults in those spaces. She faced some opposition from community members who worried about risks and the ugliness of the playgrounds. To this, the Lady Allen had a famous retort: "Better a broken arm than a bruised spirit." It is important to remember that the history of adventure playgrounds is political and tied to anti-war pacifist thinkers who rebelled against society's expectations and pushed for children to live full and happy childhoods. This cannot be forgotten in our work as playworkers. We must remember that our responsibility is to children, that their freedoms and rights are upheld at home and overseas.